subject is. Let's try that again. No, that was last week's lesson. you had the right page. This page 17. Now, go to page 17 and tell me what the subject is. Yeah, we finished that lesson. That was last week's lesson, self-examination, and we've already done that. Now, we through with that. We on page 17, caring for the needy. We've already had our self-examination, so we know how we are. Okay, we're on page 17. If you study it, you can help me out. If not, we'll go and try to explain it. Okay, if you have your Bible, I need you to turn to James 1:27. Caring for the needed, widows, and orphans. He made 3 categories. And when you get to James, we'll pause right there and I'll start assigning people scriptures. Okay? Brother Falk, you have Acts 2:47. I'm going to give you 2 scriptures. You might want to bring your paper, pencil, and pen so you can write these scriptures down. So when we get to them, you'll already have them. You have Acts 2:47. You have Psalms 84:11. Sister Overstreet, you have Acts 2:45. And you have Philippians 4:19. Sister Dot, you have 1 Corinthians 16:2, Acts 20 and 17. Got that? Yes. Brother Norris, you have 2 Corinthians 8:1-5, and Galatians 2:9-10. And we'll assign the rest as we come in. Okay, we're on page 17. And we're talking about caring for the needed, widows, and the orphanage. I think we've talked about this in the past, and I'm going to be the first reader. I'm going to go to James, the first chapter, and I'm going to read verse 27. James said, let's go to verse 26. If any man among you seem to be religious, and bridleth not his tongue, but deceiveth his own heart, this man religion is vain. What do you think James is saying there? If any man among you seem to be religious and bridleth not his tongue. What does that mean? What does that control his tongue? Control his, why is that so important, Brother Falk? Why is Yes, it's a dangerous thing, and you have to learn how to bridle it. It's not always what you say, is it, Sister Doc? Sometimes it's the way you say it. So we as Christians have to learn, just because something come on your mind, you can't always say it. I had to learn this on my job, because sometimes my tongue got me in trouble, even though I was right. But many times that tongue can get you in trouble. So you have to learn how to control it. Don't always be quick to say what's on your mind. You know how people say, I speak what's on my mind. That's not always good. Because James tells us how dangerous the tongue is. Okay, now I'm going to go on to what the lesson is about here. Okay? He says, pure religion and undefiled before God the Father is this: to visit the fatherless. And we talked about who they were. Who are they? Who are the fatherless? Those that don't have a father or a provider. We are to visit them. Do you think that word visit means what you think it means? Just to show up? That doesn't mean what it says, does it, Brother Falk? Just to show up? It's more to it than that. To visit the fatherless and widows in their affliction. What does that mean, in their affliction? Their time of need. When they're going through it, in their affliction, we got to visit them and keep himself unspotted from the world. So James tells us if we're going to be religious, we have to learn to visit the far. We have to learn to care about those children that don't have a provider, Brother Washington. We have to learn to care about the widows who are desolated and don't have no one to care about them. Okay, because they're in their old age. They're in what we call their golden age. So we're talking about caring for the needed, the widows, and the orphan. We're actually talking about caring for the poor. Am I right? Mm-hmm. Now let's go to Acts 2 and verse 47. And this is when the church first got started. And it's good to go back to the beginning, because when we go back to the beginning, we'll understand the organization of the church. Let's go back to Acts 2:47, when the church was first established on the day of Pentecost. And let's see what it says. Okay, the church was praising God, and they were having favors with all the people. And the Lord added to the church David, such as should be saved. First of all, they were praising God. They were giving God thanks for blessing them to become a part of the New Testament church. Am I right? Not only were they praising God, but they were having favors with all the people. What does that mean? What does the word favor mean? Yes, sir. The word favor has reference to grace. They were doing kind and benevolent deeds. There's a reason for that, and we're going to get into that. But they were doing kind and benevolent deeds. And while they were praising God and having favor with all the people, the church grew. And the Lord added daily to the church. You notice? What? Psalms 84 and verse 11. Brother Falk. The Lord is a sun and shield. Uh-huh. The Lord will give grace and glory. No good thing will be withheld from them that walk upright. What is the psalmist saying here about grace? What is he saying about it? What are you saying about God? God, what are you saying? What are you saying? God will give, read that again, and then y'all listen to it. The Lord God is the sun and shield. He is the sun and he is the shield. The Lord will give grace. He will give grace, or he will give favor. And no good things will be withheld from them. What is he saying there, church? What do you think he's saying? What are you saying about grace? What are you saying about faith? Yes, sir. Grace, doing things without charge. And if you walk upright, God gonna show us favors. He gonna do some things for us. Okay? Keep that in mind. He will do some things for you. Let's look at Acts 2:45. Who had that? I think you had that, sis. Now we're still talking about the New Testament church now. And on the day of Pentecost, when the church was established, they sold their possessions and good and parted them to all men as every man had need. What was going on here in Jerusalem? For them to sell their possession. Now, he said they sold their possession. It was mine, but I sold it to help you, sis. I call that an act of love. It was their possession, but they sold it, and it was given to every man as they had need. What does that mean? Every man as they had need. What does that mean? I got 10 children. You got 2 children. My need is greater than your need. We didn't all get the same, did we, Sister Benita? But we got it according to our needs. I can easily feed 1 child than I can 10. You follow me, Rafal? You got 10, she got 2. Y'all needs are not the same. So on the day of Pentecost, as they sold their possession, and they brought it to the apostles, laid it at their feet. You remember that story about the 2 that lied about what they had done, and one of them got killed, and the other came later on. And the apostles were able to distribute it to the needed saints according to their need. Everybody don't have the same need. You see what I'm saying? But they were provided, they were hope according to the necessity, to the need. And that's how it's supposed to be done. Okay? So this is what they did. They sold their possession, and they parted them, or they gave them to every man as they had need. Was this a command? No. It was not a command. What was it? Act of love, not a command. And they parted them to every man according to their needs. Okay. Did I give someone Philippians 4:19? Come on. Hold on for a minute. Let me go there. Let me get there. I like being there. That way I can examine it. Okay. I gave you Philippians 4:19. Now let's read it. But my God shall supply all your needs. What is Paul saying to the church? Have we ever had a need that God didn't provide for us? No. God will provide our needs if we learn to trust him. Okay? I commented on the family of 2 and the family of 10. Okay? So we have and realize that God will take care of our needs. All the needs I told you before were not the same. Okay. Okay. Who did I give 1 Corinthians 16, 1 and 2 to? Okay. Let's look at this now. And we're talking about caring about the needed, the widows and the orphans. Let's see what 1 Corinthians says.
You said 1 and 2.
Yeah, 1 and 2. 1 Corinthians. Let me go there. Let me get there. Because there's something in there. Let me get there. There's something in there. 1 Corinthians 16. Okay, wait, let me get there. There's something in there. Okay. 1 Corinthians 16. Okay. 16, 1 and 2. Okay, now I'm there. I gave you first Corinthians 16, 1 and 2. Okay, let's look at this.
Okay, it says,
Now concerning the collection for the saints,
as I have given order to the churches of Galilee.
Who was the collection for?
For the saints.
It was for the saints. It was not for the local church. So often we quote that scripture and we use it to tell members how they are to give. Nothing wrong with that. But in this particular scripture, that collection was not for the church that was taking it up. And I'm going to prove it. Okay, now concerning the collection for the saints, as I have given order to the church of Galatia. You see, that's why I know it wasn't for the local church. Because he gave the Galatian church the same order, Brother Falk. As I have given order to the church of Galatia, listen now.
Even so do you.
I want you to do the same thing. As I've told the church in Galatians to take up money for the needed saints in Jerusalem, I'm telling you, Corinthians, the same thing. On the first day of the week, come on, verse 2.
Upon the first day of the week.
Now, when do I want you to do this? When do you want me to do this, Paul? I want you to do it on the first day of the week. When you church members come together, let every one of you lay by him in store. As God has prospered him,
that there be no gathering when I come.
That there be no gathering when I come. What do you think Paul is telling the church in Corinthians? We know what the purpose of the collection was for. It was for the poor saints in Jerusalem. And he gave the Galatians the same order that he gave the Corinthians. He says, also do ye upon the first day of the week, when you all come together on the Lord's day, let every one of you lay by him in store, as God has prospered him, that there be no gathering when I get there. What is Paul saying? Should we wait on Sunday morning to realize what we're going to put in the collection on Sunday? I told you on Thursday morning, my wife know what my collection is. Because most time I reach it to her. And I give her the money that I'm going to give her to take care of our house need. And along with that envelope, I give her the church collection. So on Thursday, she knows. So I don't have to wait until Sunday morning. What Paul is telling the church, I don't want you to wait until I arrive when you start taking up this money. Have this money already ready, so when I get there, I can get it, and I can take it back to Jerusalem. Or I can let you select some men that you trust with this money. I'm going to prove that. And they can go with me. Okay? And I'm going to prove that. I had to study to find that, but it's that. Okay. 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 Now let's go to verse 3. I include right here in verse 3. Let's read verse 3. Come on, Sid, read verse 3. And when I get there, whichever brothers that you have there that you feel you can trust with the Lord's money, is that what it's saying, Brother Sipes? That's what it's saying. Whatever brother the church select, whichever brother the church pick out, Brother Falk, that you feel is trustworthy with the Lord's money, come on, let's see what it says. You wrote the letter. You approved it. You said it was all right. Listen now.
Them will I send to bring your liberty.
I'm going to send them to bring your liberty or your liberality.
To Jerusalem.
Where was that money to go? I told you it wasn't for the local church. But so often we teach this. We use it for the local church to give. But that verse ain't talking to us about the local church. That collection was not for the local church. That collection was to be taken up and carried to the needed saint in Jerusalem. And verse 3 just proved it. So Paul said, when I get there, I need you already wrote me a letter about these brothers and told me they're all right, that they're trustworthy. Why do you think that was important? For the church to select those men, Brother Washington? Why was it important for the church to select those men? Why didn't Paul select them? These weren't men just coming to church. These were men, come on. These were men that had been working with the church and had proved themselves to be what kind of men, Bro Falk? Trustworthy men. Can we put anybody over the Lord's church treasure? We do it. We do it today. If he got a big income or whatever, we put him over the Lord's treasure. That don't mean he's trustworthy. If he live in a mansion, we put him over the Lord's church. We make him elder. Does that mean he's trustworthy? No. How many churches have been destroyed, Brother Sykes, because they put the wrong man over the Lord's treasure? Have you witnessed this yourself, Brother Sykes? Yes, sir. He sure have. He told us about it when he was in Louisiana. Brother had over the treasure, took the church treasure and left the church broke. Because we put the wrong men. You can't just put anybody over the Lord's church. These must be men that have been working with the church, have proven themselves to be trust. Would you put anybody over your money, sis? Will you let me handle your money? You can trust me. You can trust me, Bro Falk. You can put your money in my account. All right. All right. It's a lesson in that. It's a lesson in that, okay? So Paul said, now when I get there, I want you to select these men because you wrote the letter. You told me they were all right. And when you give them this money, they're going to take it to the needed saints in Jerusalem. Ain't nobody going to be watching over them but God. So they have to be trustworthy men. That's a lesson for us to learn in the church, that we can't put any kind of men over the Lord's treasure. They have to be trustworthy men that are proving themselves. Okay? And they were selected by the church. Good to do that. Okay, I proved to you what the collection was for and where it was going to. Let's go to Acts 20 and verse 7. Mm-hmm. Wait, let's get 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5 first. Then we'll go back to Acts 20, 17. I meant to put Corinthians before that. 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. What it says now. Did I give you that? Okay.
Moreover, brother.
Listen now.
You got it?
You got it, sis? You can read Brother Washington. It don't matter.
Well, you assigned it to me.
Okay. You can get it. You have 2 Corinthians. Did I sign you? Oh, I signed to you? Okay, read that. But then I'm going to let her go back to Acts. Read 2 Corinthians 8, 1 through 5. Now listen to what it says. Moreover, brother.
We do you to wait of grace of God
Uh-huh.
bestowed on the church of Macedonia.
Uh-huh.
How that in a great trial of affliction,
Hold on, bro. Let me get that because that is something in there that's good. Okay. 2 Corinthians 8, verse 5. Okay, come on. Let's go. Come on.
affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty abounded unto the riches of their liberty.
Moreover, brethren, we do the grace that bestowed upon the churches of Macedonia. They had been restored. Grace had been restored upon the churches of Macedonia. They had been given many favors. How that in great trials of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty. Keep that in mind. And their deep poverty abound unto the riches of their liberality. Keep reading. For to their power I bear them record, or I'm a witness. Yea, and beyond their power. They were willing of themselves, praying us with much entreaty, that we would receive the gift and take upon us. He's talking about the saints in Jerusalem. Keep reading. And this they did not. My expectation was greater than I thought it was. Okay, come on. But they first gave their own selves to the Lord and unto us by the will of God. Now, let's go back over that verse and see what it's saying. Because I think it's saying something, Brother Sykes. Moreover, brethren, he talking to the Corinthians, we do the width of the grace of God bestowed upon the churches of Macedonia. They were given grace. They were given favors. How that in great trials of affliction, the abundance of their joy and their deep poverty. What is Paul saying about the church here? What is he saying about the churches of Macedonia? Okay, he is saying that the church here was in deep poverty. What is deep poverty, Sister Sykes? What is deep poverty? You're in deep poverty. What is it saying? They didn't have nothing, sis. They didn't have nothing, church. They had no new car. They didn't have a cat like Brother Charlie. They didn't have a hoopty. They were poor people. They were in deep poverty. Not just poor, they were deep poverty. That deep poverty means they didn't have nothing. Sister Annie, they were in deep poverty. This is a lesson for us. Abound unto the riches of their liberality. What is he saying in that verse? They were poor people, but what happened? But let me go to that now. They were in deep poverty. All right? Is Brother Falk right? Yes. They were in deep poverty. They were poor. Yeah, people say, I ain't got nothing. I can't give. They were in deep poverty. They didn't have anything. But they gave unto God the abundance and riches of their liberality. That verse simply said, even though they didn't have nothing, they gave beyond their expectation. Is that what that verse saying, Brother Sykes? Tell me how poor people can do that don't have nothing. Can give beyond their liberality. Have you ever looked up that word and see what it means? It means to give generously. They were deep poverty, but they gave beyond Paul's expectation. How can poor people go beyond my expectation? This verse is going to tell me. Okay, listen to what it says now. For to their power I bear them record. In other words, I'm a witness of this. I was there. And beyond their power, they went beyond their ability. were willing of themselves, okay, praying us, he said, begging us with much entreaty that we would receive the gift or that we would receive the money or whatever they gave to take to the needed saints in Jerusalem and take upon us the fellowship of the ministering to the saints. They begged us to take whatever they had to give to the needed poor in Jerusalem. Even though they were poor and in deep poverty themselves, whatever they could come up with, they begged us to take it. We didn't want to take it because Sister Bonita is already poor, and I don't want to take what she got. You see what I'm saying? But she's begging me to take it because she knows there's some folks over there in Sebring that need it better than she does. Okay? This is what he's saying. Praying us with much entreaty that we should take upon us the fellowship, and that word means mutual sharing, joint participating, a group of people with the same interest. Okay. And this they did. Listen to Paul now. Not as we hope. Paul said, I wasn't even expecting this. Not from poor folk. I don't expect much from poor people, but first gave their own selves to the Lord. Tell me how poor people could give beyond their ability, Brother Falk. All right? How were they able to give above their ability even though they were poor? That verse tells us right there if you read it. And this they did, not as we hoped, but first. You got to get first thing first. But first, they gave themselves to the Lord, and then unto us by the will of God, until we as Christians give ourselves first to the Lord. We will never give in the church like we're supposed to. How many of y'all believe that? Is that right, Brother Sykes? Is that what that verse is saying? That's exactly what it's saying. Until an individual gives himself to the Lord, I don't care how much you beg him to give, he's not going to get right. You ever seen people when the collection basket pass, they walk in the bathroom, go get some water to avoid giving? We will never give ourselves to the Lord. Like we will never give in the collection like we're supposed to until we first give ourselves to the Lord. You see, when a man gives himself to the Lord, everything else that he has belongs to God. Am I right? Everything he possessed belongs to God. So we will never be able to give like God wants us to until we first. This is what this verse is saying. Until we first give ourselves to the Lord. This is not what Brother Halliburton is saying. This is what the Bible is saying. How many of y'all don't believe that? Hold your hand up. This is a verse. Okay? This is a lesson. I don't understand how poor people could give beyond their ability. But when I understand the Bible, now I know how they can do it. Those people first gave themselves to God. And the Bible said if we give ourselves to God, he will, we just read the verse, he will take care of our needs. Didn't he say that? And then in one verse somewhere in the Old Testament, he said, try me and I will open up the windows of heaven and pour out blessings that you won't have room to store. Did he say that? Now let's back up to Acts 24 and 17. I think that.
No, you say 20.
Yeah, Acts 24:17. I don't want to get them ahead of each other.
Okay, 24:17.
But I hope you got the lesson.
Yes. 24:17.
Mm-hmm.
Then Paul called one of the Securities
Listen up.
unto him and said, bring this young man unto the chief captain.
Wait a minute, let me go there, because that ain't sounding right. That ain't sounding right to me, sister. That ain't sounding right to me.
Okay, now for many years
I know when a lesson don't sound right. Hold on, let me get there. I know when it don't sound right. Okay. Okay, read it again now.
Now after many years I came to bring aims to my nation.
Okay, what Paul is saying, that after many years he came back to help his nation, to bring aim. The word aim means, in a sense, money. He came back to help him. That's why he came back. That's why I had that verse read. Okay, who has Galatians 2:9 and 10?
I didn't ever read Acts 17 either.
Which one?
17.
What I gave you?
Mm-hmm.
What I gave you?
You gave me Acts 20:17.
I don't even have that down. I don't even have that down here.
Well, I should have wrote it down.
What is it? What you wrote down?
Acts 20:17.
Read it, because I don't have that down here. I think it meant 24:17. But read that and see what you got.
Is it from Midas he sent to Ephesus and called the elders
No, that had nothing to do with the lesson. How I know that's not right? It was 24:17. Yeah, it had nothing to do with the lesson. It's got to jive with the lesson. If it doesn't, it's a misprint. Okay, who has Galatians 2:9 and 10? Okay.
And when James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars,
Okay.
received the grace that was given unto me.
Okay. And James and let me get there. And James and Cephas and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace that was given unto me. Mm-hmm.
They gave to me and Barnabas
Uh-huh.
the right hand of fellowship,
When they saw that we was given the grace, they gave us the right hand of fellowship. Okay.
that we should go unto the heathen,
That we should go unto the heathen.
and they unto the circumcision.
They wanted us to go to the Gentiles, and they wanted to go to the Jews. Okay. Listen now.
Only they would have would that we should remember the poor.
They had one request. We going to one of us going to the Gentiles and the other one going to the Jews, but we have a request of you, Paul, that you should remember the poor. What are we talking about? The needy, the poor, and the widows. Come on.
The same which I also was forward to do.
Now, Paul said James and Cephas, who seemed to be pillars. What do you mean by pillars? They were pillars of the church, Brother Falk. What do you mean by pillars? What is a pillar in the Old Testament? Yeah, they were something that the foundation stood on. They were the strength of the church. These brothers were pillars, man. And James, Cephas, and John, who seemed to be pillars, perceived the grace. They saw what was going on that was given unto me. They gave unto me and Barnabas the right hand of fellowship. They joined us, that we should go unto the Gentiles and they to the Jews. They only had one request when we got there. And the only request was that we should remember the poor, those that are less fortunate than we are. And Paul said, and the same thing we did. Paul honored their request. Am I right? Okay. Who has Acts? We're going to have to close. Who has Acts 11:29? Okay. I ain't get. Okay. I ain't get. Let's get a little of this, and then we probably gonna have to close. Let's go to Acts 11. I'm gonna read 29. I think it is Acts 11:29. Look what it says. Okay. Then the disciples, every man according to his ability, determined to send relief unto the brothers which dwell in Judah. What is Judah? What is Judah? Isn't Judah a province of Jerusalem? Yes, it is. Jerusalem was simply the capital of Judah. So he said, every brother, according to his ability, determined to send relief to the brother. What do you mean by send relief? Every brother, according to his ability, decided to send some money to Judah, to the Jerusalem saints. And let's go in verse. Let's go back to the verse 28. Let's go for 27. And in these days came prophets from Jerusalem to Antioch. Antioch was what they were first called Christian. And there stood up one of them named Agabus, and signified by the Spirit that there should be a great drought throughout all the world, which came to pass in the days of Claudius Caesar. What do you mean by a great drought, Brother Falk? He prophesied that there was going to be a great drought. And then we're going to cut off there. There was going to be a great drought there. Huh? Right. Something like you heard the word Old Testament called famine? There's the, drought. Famine. Nothing could grow. It's going to be a great drought there. So since it's going to be a great drought there, now you see, and this happened. Now you see why it was so important for them to send relief to Jerusalem, because there had been a great drought. Those saints had come to Jerusalem to worship, and they got caught off, and they didn't have nothing. And I think many of them didn't have a way of how to get back home. So Jerusalem was in a great need. But the Christians got together and they raised money throughout the region, and the churches of Galatia took up a collection, and the Corinthians took up a collection. Paul told the Corinthians on one occasion, I robbed other churches taking wages to do your service. So the church learned how to care about each other. Caring is everything. Caring is really the key to the church growth. Am I right? That's the success to the church growth. We have to learn to care about those that are less fortunate than us, the fathers, the widows, and the needy. Those that are less fortunate. We have to learn to care about them. Caring is what made the early church grow. Now, if it worked for the early church, you think it might work for us, Brother Simon? I believe it'll work. We just have to learn to trust God and believe that he'll take care of our needs. So whatever we need, God said he will supply it. My problem is that I have to have faith to believe that, don't I? You know, Peter's problem on that ship when it started sinking was that he didn't have faith. Jesus was already on the ship with it. He just didn't have no faith. He thought the ship was going to sink, and he wondered why Jesus was asleep, because he wasn't worried about the ship. He owned the ship. Is he on this ship? Should we be worried if he's on here? He ain't gonna let us sink, is he? We have to learn to have faith